Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Aditi from L&T Cloudfinity. Thank you for joining today's session. We have our expert speaker, Mr. Kirtikar Ojha, who would touch base on few essential factors that needs to be considered while choosing your ideal data center. If you have any questions, we have scheduled the last 10 minutes for a Q&A session where he would be addressing all your doubts and queries. Now, with further ado, I'd let Kirtikar sir take the stage.
Good afternoon. Namaste. Thank you so much for taking your time out for this afternoon. The topic that I have the responsibility to speak about has been spoken by so many people and has been heard by so many people. Whole lot of activity and actions on the IT front happened on data center front and the cloud technology front. So I would like to, I'll try my best to speak something which may not have been so much being discussed over a certain period of time. Data center, I was part of the industry when there was a sales opportunity for 1U or 2U. And then people used to visit data center inside the server farm area to see where their 1U server will be hosted. So from there, since I'm talking about 2001, say about 20 years back, and today when the entire landscape has changed, we are talking about hyperscalers, we are talking about so much of power density and network centric IT hotels that people refer to as data center, down to a level wherein in Europe and North America, the government is coming out with policy of declaring their power usage effectiveness and how do they use power and carbon emission by different data center players. There is a talk of creating server farm, solar farm for some hyperscalers. So this is the kind of scale that is happening in data center industry as of time. I don't want to share much slide, but I hope this is visible. And so we have discussed, this has been discussed many times, IoT, SaaS, 5G, audio visual dense workloads, etc., driving the data center market and even the cloud. So when I talk data center, I am including cloud adoption as well, because that is where the house is. The cloud resides in a data center. In fact, hyperscalers advent in India has driven the data center industry into a different stratosphere. The application centric, which application being used, application light or application heavy, DevSecOps is the new buzzword that people talk about. The hyper-converged cloud, multi-cloud as a service model services, which being, you name it, anybody, you Swiggy or Flipkart or. I'm trying my best not to cite those examples which you have already heard. The fourth point, which I would like to mention is I was speaking to many industry veterans and they gave me an insight that the rate of technology change which is happening across the world and especially in India is like unprecedented. There were consultants, I can't name them here, who said that we are scared of the very fact that the kind of technology barriers are being broken, the glass ceiling being shattered with each passing 6 months or year. A 6 months is now a decade. That is how fast adoption is happening in India in terms of technology, startup, whole lot of ecosystem. Even the government with the recent NIC bid or software technology parks of India or state data centers are trying to modernize and involve private players in a PPP model and where people are talking about gone were the days when government was investing money. I'm talking about government of India per se. People are talking about participation now and they see a whole lot of revenue stream coming in. Government wants to tap private players into promoting the data center. Cloud continues to be the king, be it in whatever avatar, be it hybrid or a cloud uh, as a platform basis. And the last point, which is driving growth for data center adoptions, like a role of IT. In my entire span of career, I have seen IT from a cost center turning into a business enabler, even creator. I am seeing CIOs become CEO, which was kind of unheard of. The CEOs were largely those savvy, business oriented sales head or marketing head becoming the CEO of an organization today. An IT CIO or a CTO can chance his career move as a CEO of the organization, because there are so many clients which have their entire business model running on technology platform. I can cite a lot of examples, but I'm trying not to be repetitive, because this is a very, very commonly used terminology when you talk about data center or cloud. How do you choose the right data center? And the golden philosophy remains the same: the power, the scalability, the network. I'll speak more on network and cooling. The network-centric data center, or in North America called as IT hotels. The cloud showed the way that you enter into a hotel with your accessories or your personal belongings and enter into a room and start using that room in whatever way, whichever way you want to. You want to sleep, you want to read, you want to work, whatever. And this is like a public shared cloud environment. Similarly, in a data center, there are people who are now customizing it to their choice, the hyperscalers or a normal enterprise who was entering a data center basis the availability of power and network. Today, people are talking about gigabit capacities running into a data center, and that is what is driving change in data center adoption. So for any budding CIO or CTO or infra head who's looking for an opportunity, please have a look on the diverse path of network which is coming in. What is the topology of that network? What is the scalability? Which is the nearby core POP? It's coming from a regional layer or a core layer, and a whole lot of things. I'm sure people are aware about this, but still it's a form of reiteration. What is the capacity expansion plan? Be it the own land by the service provider? Is it a leased? Is it a JV? Have that being looked into by your infra team as well. Because when there is a JV, there are a whole lot of land transfer and legalities which you might overlook. The continuous supply of power, the diverse supply of power, uh, both at the grid level if possible, if not at the substation level, though there are a lot of players now which have this diverse power path. Tier 3 compliances certification has democratized the technology parameters of a data center. So data centers are coming up really well in India at this point. You cannot single out any data center per se for lack of availability of these things. The biggest point is the orchestration of different and varied components into a running machine called a data center. So from people-centric to operations to tool-based to ITSM to BMS to diesel availability, from power availability, disaster drills, and the technology enablement inside the server farm area, both in terms of cooling and in terms of maintaining that uh, dust-free and a uh, optimized temperature environment in server farm area. For example, today we are talking about immersion cooling. Whole lot of activities is being happening around the country. L&T is pioneer. I had thought that I will not be promoting L&T because this is not the forum to promote my company. But yeah, we have done a lot of work in that part. Our group company has been working very tirelessly with defense and army and whole lot of smart city projects, wherein they are deploying 5G in a box kind of situation, wherein you can have your data center operated, a kind of mini data center operated from jungle also, on a highway also, depending on if it is closed in the proximity of a telecom tower. So this is the kind of changes which is happening. This is the kind of adoption being done in this phase. For hyperscalers, the advent of hyperscalers has created a whole lot of demand in the country. Today, we are talking about close to a 1 gigawatt of capacity being deployed in the country, and another 1 gigawatt being announced or in the process of being commissioned. I think, if I'm not mistaken, 14 to 15 operators are already operating in the country with foreign origins or the Indian players. Bulk of the demand has come from hyperscalers, followed by the banking industry. A whole lot of changes has happened in the banking industry in the digital adoption way, which the government has done. From that side, whole lot of storage requirement has come in. Whole game has changed in terms of storage as a service or a backup as a service. The adoption of AI ops has revolutionized the you know your resource planning. Lot of L1 L2 functionality has been replaced by the AI ops tool adoption, and that is what is changing the way the cost structure of a data center provider is happening at this point of time. Power continues to be the biggest source of operational expense, and I would recommend the CIOs or infra head to focus more on their power requirement, power planning. And as I said, in the North America and Europe, if it is happening, I think 3-4 years down the line, it'll happen in India as well, where people have to come out with their energy efficiency quotient and declare in a public domain as to how they are earning carbon credits for the country where they operate and how they are managing their power. There is a panel which is in discussion of deploying dedicated solar farms or renewable energy farms for these dedicated high dense power hungry data centers. L&T again is deeply involved into hydrocarbon. We have started manufacturing hydrocarbon. It's 45 kilogram per day. But the challenge, like any other place, is to transport. The transportation of hydrogen is a humongous cost and effort. Indian Railways has announced that they are also running on hydrocarbon in near future. So you will see a lot of activity happening on renewable energy. So while you're choosing a data center partner, keep that in mind. Because end of the day, as the compute and storage are getting intense and denser, the power requirement and power density per rack will go into multifolds. If that is the case, so will be the impact on cooling. So we are talking about immersion or chiller. Chiller has not been so successful in India because of the evaporation of water that happens, the lakhs liter of water in a country where water is a scarce utility item. It's the lifeline for various people. Chiller has not been so successful. Today we are talking about immersion cooling, which is being adopted by the OEMs. I don't want to name them, but there are a whole lot of engagement you will see in the coming 2-3 years where you will be entering into an immersion cooling environment. Be prepared for that. If you're not, start having discussions and start having, you know, chalk out your plans with your team to make it happen. For any data center player, the ancillary service ecosystem is a must for them to maintain, be it a cloud environment, multi-cloud, managed services, whole lot of managed services, suite of services. How do you manage any ERP? How do you manage your NOC, SOC, L1, L2 support? These are given. These are given. And these are the things which is like a non-negotiable. These are not features anymore. These are given. As I said, the tier 3 certification and the entire ways to certify a data center has democratized a data center in terms of features. So most of the parameters you will find the similarity in all the buildings that you visit. What differentiate is the vision of a player. Be cognizant of this fact. When you're choosing your data center, I will talk more on the softer side. Meet the operations team, meet the operations head, how amenable he is, how customer centric he is or she is, how open are they to listen to a customer. Are we hearing the voice of a customer? What are the pain points a customer has during the migration, during the heavy lift shift, during the installing their racks, replacing their racks and equipments in the server farm area? Rely on that. That is called human angle. Apart from looking after on this infra-led orientation of choosing a right data center player, look on the human part. Who are the people you will be your data will be residing amongst? Who are the people who will be managing those? Who are the guys who are doing L1, L2 support? These are things when people don't even consider. To my mind, these are the points which you should be aware and cognizant of. Network, to my mind, is the most important aspect apart from cooling and power for a data center survival, I will say. The heavy, dense workloads and the whole lot of social media is driving the network requirements day after day. Uh, See what is the network path coming in. I have discussed, I'm reiterating this point again, that what is the capacity planning that you have from network centricity? What is your team has a say on this? Please have a roadmap on the coming 5 years to 7 years, like the way you need to do on your compute or storage side and the power side, and how you intend uh, orchestrating amongst all the building blocks. If I move forward, what is the way forward? To my mind, way forward is fix up your data center strategy, have a clear roadmap on what kind of a workload you are giving, having, adopting. As I said, IT team is no longer a cost center. It is like a business enabler where the sales head or a CMO or chief revenue officer's hat see how the business is growing, what will be the right fit and right size of your hardware, of your capacity planning in terms of your network, power, cooling, and server farm area. What will be your cloud strategy? Which workloads will migrate? Which will remain with you? Is there a reverse repatriation happening from public cloud to a private cloud environment? Be cognizant of this fact. Be alive and aware about this fact. And if there is which is driving you for want of whatever, there are some issues in the hyperscaler which clients don't understand. Uh, Maybe the transparency in the billing, transparency in the cost items. There are customers who say that they are not still aware as to what will be my cost if I'm hosting my workloads in a public cloud environment, especially from the hyperscaler side. Why is it that Indian cloud providers have not been able to manage the customers the way hyperscalers have? So these are the questions we need to ask amongst ourselves. Why there is so much of penchant of going into a hyperscaler environment and why not the Indian players? Is this services orientation, cost, ease of operation? These kind of inputs that you share with providers will help us, guys, the people like us who are starting up our journey to firm up our plan to cater to that kind of a demand. So these are kind of an understanding amongst the customer that if you have more denser workload, go into a hyperscaler. If you have a lesser workload, go into an Indian cloud provider. And if you have certain set of compliances driven or you want a dedicated environment, go into private cloud environment. Why not have a concrete plan and policies, keeping in mind your 3 to 5 to 8 to 10 years of roadmap? If you have your hardware refresh planning, this is the time. If it is 2 years hence, this is the time. If it is 5 years hence, you have recently bought your hardware, I think this is the time. So this is the time for your all your plannings, your immediate, your intermediate, and your long term. Reason being, technology is changing. Technology barriers are breaking every single day, every single moment. Why we are talking, there are a whole lot of activities which is happening in India. Today we are talking about 100 unicorns being born in India, and we are talking about billionaires moving around and running their entire operations on technology-enabled cloud platforms. PaaS in when I started my career, PaaS was like OS, DB. Today we are talking about Kubernetes. Today we are talking about DevSecOps, the developers community using the PaaS in a totally different manner, which it was 15 to 20 years back. How people are using the digital native community, which is now taking strides year after year. Today, 50% of cloud adoption is happening because of self-service portal, the automation part. There are entities in India which are providing support for AI ops to customers in US and Europe. This is the power that today's youth is having in this country. When I talk about AI ops, again, I'm saying that it has changed the way resource planning is being done by our future CIO. Having covered all the points, please also keep in mind the location. The location is like an essential part, integral part of choosing a data center. Keep in mind 5 years down the line. Keep in mind what is the power requirement or power demand which can arise in a current location, which they might not be able to suffice or fulfill. Then what happens? Migration, lift and shift, or choose a location which is like a data center park or an IT park. Keep that also in mind. You never know when that requirement comes in, when your workload increases, when your server density increases. So when I said that IT, and I'm keeping this track on repeating myself, that the IT is not a cost center anymore. IT is a business enabler, business creator. There are certain technology-led companies which don't have a sales team, which don't have a customer experience team, which don't have a so-called business relationship teams. All they have a certain side of nerds, coders, whatever you call, who are running the show. So this is the kind of new age business model which is like breaking all other framework which we were used to. So today, to my mind, if I want to summarize up, have a vision on your application side, on your storage and compute, how it's going to change, how the business in your domain will change, how fast you can adopt the technology to enable your business further and play a part in increasing the profitability of your organization, how you are going to increase the business revenue market share of your company. So many times I used to visit the customers and the CIO used to very proudly talk about the revenue market share, RMS. And I was so surprised because this is the language that the chief revenue officers or chief CMO or CSO used to have. But in the boardrooms, dominance of IT players, IT players means IT team, is increasing. Be part of that cycle, to my mind. Don't want to sermonize it, but that is how it goes now. And the IT group of a company, to my mind, is the real talent pool at this point. I'm from a sales and marketing fraternity, but I will stick my neck out to say this. Going forward, the techno savvy oriented people will rise in a technology enabled environment. The techno savvy people who have a vision, who know their business very well, who understands and are willing to walk the talk will survive and survive really well. They have the chance to run the boardrooms, they have a chance to run the industry, and they have the chance to head the organization like SOCM and CIA and FICCI. As I said, I didn't want to talk more about from this forum about my company, but yeah, I work for L&T. I think I have some responsibility towards that. So whatever we have discussed, I'll just give you some feedback or as a snap, a peek into whatever we are doing. So this is what we have done. This is what we are trying to do. Be water neutral by 2035, carbon by 240. This is some kind of amazing infrastructure that we have created. This is the kind of airports we have created. This is the kind of data centers we have created and operating. This is the kind of work we have done inside and outside the data center building. This is the so Indian Army, to my mind, needs no mention of that. We are creating a unified network management system with them, creating multiple data centers, edge data centers. You will see Indian Army in a different avatar in 5 years to 10 years down the line. There'll be a NOC which will operate and guide a guy, a soldier manning China or Pakistan border and feeding them into his visual helmet. Life will change pretty fast. This is the footprint that we have created for Indian Army. uh, so we are a $19 billion company with a whole lot of things which is happening at this point. I'll be very happy if you have any questions lined up for me because it'll help me to understand as to how people are thinking and whether my thoughts are resonating well with you all. Thank you so much for your time and patience. Perhaps a silly question somebody has written. Could you help elaborate on what points need to be kept in mind when looking at evaluating big data applications within data centers? Depends on what kind of a technology you are adopting, what is your storage requirement, what is, are you going for a big data deployment? So there are, I will not promote any brand per se, but yeah, as a technology, big data is a good way to adopt. You will find a lot of things on the net. If you want to know further on this, you can drop me a mail. Drop a mail to my team from where the mail of invite has come. I'll be very happy to discuss further on it, because talking about any particular brand will not be very nice on my part at this point in time. But I'll be very happy to answer your question in detail about this. And when Mr. Mishra is asking, what is the supply side infra for immersion cooling in India? Okay, so I'm told that there is a leading OEM which is like interested in immersion cooling. They have hired some partners to manage that piece. People are very serious about this. Recently, I was at a Gartner event in Kochi. I thought that I will not be seeing much, but I saw live encounters wherein the servers were lying inside the liquid, and it was working very fine. And recently, I went to my group company in Manapakkam, Chennai, wherein found without AC environment in a sultry environment of Chennai, about 37, 38 degree, the servers were working. This is kind of, it was an eye opener when I saw that. So you'll see OEMs coming out with their strategy in immersion cooling setup and hardware, and you'll see a lot of action coming. I think within 1.5 years, you'll see a lot of things. Start planning on that, to my mind, my few cents on that. Is current data center build draft friendly for business expansion? Yes, it is. It is, and if you notice, there were a lot of chest beating, chest thumping, which was happening that India will have its own data localization and data residency, but with a whole lot of other game plan. Even NASCOM will be deeply impacted with the kind of people we supply, the kind of DR opportunities which exist in India, the cloud which is residing here and data is residing off North America and Europe and India. This can lead reverse impact on our data center and cloud business. And that is why government has decided that draft is not talking about localization of data in India, but it is being kept silent on that. The government has taken a mid path because of a whole lot of pressure coming in within and outside as well. To my mind, this leads to business as usual, and also multiple new opportunities for India to be a perfect backup or data center or even a primary site for the world multinationals. Another question is like, how can organization balance the need for security and data privacy with the need of accessibility and flexibility in their data center strategy? All nice big words. So yes, you are right. So as I said, Europe, America are driving this data secrecy a whole lot of giving a whole lot of meaning and making a cognizable offense now. There are talks going on for a cognizable offense as per the legal framework. Um, you are right. Security and privacy and flexibility in the operations. This is what I was referring to, that you are choosing a data center, meet the data center head, meet their scope of work, meet their standard operating processes. Who are the people who are running the show? How flexible are they? Because whatever policies you create, those are the guys who will implement it. So there are, you'll see lot of changes coming in from this side. And as I said, government of India is silent on the localization of data. That will help Indian companies from security perspective. Whole lot of new dimensions coming. I remember there was a cloud security framework, SASE, SASE. People used to call it SOS. Now that will start encompassing the entire cloud security framework. There are a whole lot of components in SASE, which we can discuss it later because it'll take a lot of time. I would have liked to continue further, but time doesn't permit me. I'm so thankful to you. You took your time if time permits, in some other near future, we'll be having a session again. I'm so thankful, and I wish you all your best of uh, you know uh, 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 business ahead and your cloud adoption and data center adoption ahead. Thank you so much, and have a nice evening.